Think and Grow Rich. And we are on chapter 14. There's 2 chapters left. This is the 6th sense, the door to the temple of wisdom. This is the 13th step towards riches. The 13th step towards riches. The 13th principle is known as the 6th sense, through which infinite intelligence may and will communicate voluntarily without any effort from or demands by the individual. This principle is the apex of the philosophy. It can be assimilated, understood, and applied only by first mastering the other 12 principles. So the 6th sense is that part of your subconscious mind referred to as the creative imagination. Trusting people is my strength. And then other people see that as a weakness. The 6th sense defies description. It cannot be described to a person who's not mastered the other principles of this philosophy, because such a person has no knowledge and no experience with which the 6th sense may be compared. Understanding of the 6th sense comes only from meditation. Here we go with the meditation again. You guys got to meditate through mind development from within. So you see what they're saying there is when you meditate, it's not just sitting in silence. You're actually developing your mind from within. Trust is earned, not given. That's funny. Rose says that. Rose says that too. Trust is earned, not given. Bob, do you make people earn your trust? The 6th sense probably is the medium of contact between the finite mind of man and infinite intelligence. And for this reason, it is a mixture of both the mental and the spiritual. It is believed to be the point at which the mind of man contacts the universal mind. So accept as truth this statement. Through the aid of the 6th sense, you will be warned of impending dangers in time to avoid them, and notified of opportunities in time to embrace them. How many of you feel like you have a 6th sense? You know things before they happen, and then when you follow through on your 6th sense, it works out for you, or you avoid danger. Okay, I'll be back, says he does. Good. Blue Eye Wade, you use it all the time. Do you feel that yours is well developed, or do you feel that you're working on developing it? Or for those of you that answered, do you do things to develop your 6th sense? Good. It's strong. Very good. Very good. Because I do 6th sense. Y'all know I'm a psychic and mediumship teacher. So I teach from that point of view that if you develop your intuition and your psychic abilities, you're going to be fine in this life, because you'll have an inner knowing that can't be compromised. You know what I'm saying? Because people can be compromised. You can have friends and say, oh, I trust what they say, but they can be compromised. Everybody has ulterior motive, right? The author is not a believer in, nor an advocate of miracles, for the reason that he has enough knowledge of nature to understand that nature never deviates from her established laws. Some of her laws are so incomprehensible that they produce what appears to be miracles. The 6th sense comes as near to being a miracle as anything, and it appears so only because I do not understand the method by which this principle is operated. Thank you for the fave. Baby girl, welcome. True, I'll be back. And that's the thing, because a lot of people think in the metaphysical field, like, oh, what Uma does, it's woo-woo. It's all witchy-woo stuff. No, it's based on natural law. How many of you know the natural laws, right? Do you study the natural laws? Because the natural laws, once you figure things out from that perspective, the world becomes less scary, because then you start to understand how things operate, right? I probably should do a class here on natural laws. This much the author does know, that there is a power or a first cause or an intelligence which permeates every atom of matter and embraces every unit of energy, that this infinite intelligence converts acorns into oak trees, causes water to flow downhill in response to the law of gravity, follows night with day and winter with summer, each maintaining its proper place and relationship to the other. Is it then better to live accepting that everyone can be compromised? The way I live is not that everybody can be compromised. I live with the inner knowing that everybody is going to be true to their own radio station. So it makes it less personal. If somebody hurts me, I don't take it as, oh, they hurt me. I take it as, oh, they were acting in their best interest. Good morning, Light Brown. Yeah, definitely we'll do a talk on the natural laws. There's so many though. Hey, Sir Triple. So there's so many natural laws, but I mean, everybody knows law of gravity. There's law of vibration, law of cause and effect. Law of attraction is based off of law of vibration. Law of synchronicity. Asking is given. That's a law. Yeah. We're doing Think and Grow Rich. So we're talking about the sixth sense. Step by step through the preceding chapters, you have been led to this, the last principle, which is your sixth sense. If you've mastered each of the preceding principles, you are now prepared to accept, without being skeptical, the stupendous claims made here. If you have not mastered the other principles, you must do so before you may determine definitely whether or not the claims made in this chapter are fact or fiction. While I was passing through the age of hero worship, I found myself trying to imitate those who I admired. Moreover, I discovered that the element of fate with which I endeavored to imitate my idols gave me great capacity to do so quite successfully. I have never entirely divested myself of this habit of hero worship, although I have passed the age commonly given over to such. My experience has taught me that the next best thing to being truly great is to emulate the great by feeling and action as nearly as possible. Long before I'd ever written a line for publication or endeavored to deliver a speech, I followed the habit of reshaping my own character by trying to imitate the 9 men whose lives and life works have been most impressive to me. These 9 men were Emerson, Paine, Edison, Darwin, Lincoln, Burbank, Napoleon, Ford, and Carnegie. I have to ask you, can you write in the comments people that you would like to emulate? Do people even do that anymore? This book was written in 1937. They still had hero worship, which I believe hero worship can be healthy. Because if you have something to look up to, say an idol, if you will, and you're trying to become like them, I think, like, I'll tell you, a hero worship of mine is Richard Branson of Virgin Atlantic. Richard Branson is a hero worship of mine. Oprah, Mother Teresa, Gandhi. I don't know how the hell Gandhi did it. Get 2 million minds to all think the same thing about peace and without using violence, you know? So those are people that I look up to. So write in your comments, do you have a hero worship figure? And if not, maybe you need to. Maybe you need to kind of motivate you to move in a direction you want to move in. Every night over a long period of years, I held an imaginary council meeting with this group who I called my invisible counselors. That's pretty cool. So he sat there imagining these 9 men with him as his counseling group. The procedure was this: just before going to sleep, I would shut my eyes and see in my mind this group of men seated with me around my council table. Here, I had not only an opportunity to sit among those whom I considered to be great, but I actually dominated the group by serving as the chairman. My dad, my uncle, and Bernie Mac. Ooh, tell me why Bernie Mac? Because Bernie Mac was cool. Yeah. I did like Bernie Mac, I have to say. I had a very definite purpose in indulging my imagination through these nightly meetings. My purpose was to rebuild my own character. Are you guys hearing this? My purpose was to rebuild my own character so it would represent a composite of the characters of my imaginary counselors. Realizing as I did early in life that I had to overcome the handicap of birth in an environment of ignorance and superstition, I deliberately assigned myself the task of voluntary rebirth through the method here described. Wow. Oh, I love that. I can see you in him now. That's cool that you told me that. That's cool that you, because you do make a lot of jokes, and Bernie was just a hilarious comedian. So that's good. I like that. Building character through autosuggestion. Being an earnest student of psychology, I knew, of course, that all men have become what they are because of their dominating thoughts and desires. So do you like who you are today? I'm asking the room, do you like who you are today? Because that's going to show you what your dominating thought and desire is. So if you like who you are today, then the dominating thoughts and desires you're having are positive and they're helping you. I knew that every deeply seated desire has the effect of causing one to seek outward expression through which that desire may be transmuted into reality. I knew that self-suggestion is a powerful factor in building character, that it is in fact the sole principle through which character is builded. With this knowledge of the principles of mind operation, I was fairly well armed with the equipment needed in rebuilding my character. In these imaginary council meetings, I called on my cabinet members for the knowledge I wished each to contribute, addressing myself to each member in audible words. So he would literally talk to this imaginary council of 9 people, and he would let them know what he wanted from them. So for instance, he would say, Mr. Emerson, I desire to acquire from you the marvelous understanding of nature, which distinguished your life. Mr. Burbank, I request that you pass on to me the knowledge which enabled you to harmonize laws of nature, that you caused the cactus to shed its thorns and become an edible food. Napoleon, I desire to acquire from you, by emulation, the marvelous ability you possess to inspire men and to arouse them to greater and more determined spirit of action. Mr. Payne, I desire to acquire from you the freedom of thought and the courage and clarity with which to express convictions. I'm going to try this. This sounds pretty cool. Mr. Darwin, I wish to acquire from you the marvelous patience and ability to study cause and effect without bias or prejudice. Mr. Lincoln, I desire to build into my own character the keen sense of justice, the untiring spirit of patience, the sense of humor, the human understanding, and the tolerance. Mr. Carnegie, I am already indebted to you for my choice of a life work, which has brought me great happiness and peace of mind. I wish to acquire a thorough understanding of the principles of organized effort. So he was very specific. He wasn't just saying, oh, Carnegie, I want to learn how to be rich from you. Darwin, I want to learn how to research from you. He was being very specific. Can we do that? Right? Can we do that with our imaginary council? So if I was to say, Mother Teresa, I would say, Mother Teresa, I wish to acquire from you the loving, compassionate heart you had for people to give of yourself selflessly. I'd like to learn that. You know what I'm saying? Hey, love, thank you for the horseshoes. I appreciate that. So name somebody that you aspire to be like, and if they were in your imaginary council, what would you like to learn from them? Richard Branson, I desire to learn from you how to create big business, but still make it feel like a family. Ooh, that feels good. Because people who work at Virgin Atlantic, I mean, of course, not everybody, but they have this big family vibe and they always look like they're having fun. Thank you so much, love, AMR. Right? So if you have people in your imaginary council, write them in the comments who they are and what would you ask of them. Mr. Ford, you have been among the most helpful of the men. I wish to acquire your spirit of persistence, determination, poise, and self-confidence. I like that too. Mr. Edison, I have seated you nearest to me at my right because of the personal cooperation you have given me. I wish to acquire from you the marvelous spirit of faith, which you have uncovered so many of nature's secrets. Yeah, that's true, because you remember Edison tried 10,000 times before he created a light bulb, right? Hey, best man on POF, welcome back. So that's true that Edison, we can say Thomas Edison was persistent. So he wants to learn the art of persistency from him. How can I put a smile on people's face and not hurt their feelings in my efforts? Yeah. So you desire to learn from Bernie Mac how to make people smile with constructive humor, because destructive humor is when you make fun of people, right? Where you're like tearing them down so they can smile, but they can smile through pain. And I don't really see Bernie like that. Like Bernie made fun of himself, if anything. He didn't really make fun of other people as much. So he's just talking about this imagination council that he created, and then how they would all of a sudden develop certain traits. Like Lincoln would always be late to the meeting, and oh, the midget thing was little people was hilarious. Little people. These meetings became so realistic that I became fearful of their consequences and discontinued them for several months. The experiences were so uncanny, I was afraid if I continued them, I would lose sight of the fact that the meetings were purely experiences of my imagination. He started getting so involved with these nighttime imaginary meetings that he started to kind of like take them as realistic, Some 6 months after I had discontinued the practice, I was awakened one night when I saw Lincoln standing at my bedside. He said, "The world will soon need your services. It's about to undergo a period of chaos which will cause men and women to lose faith and become panic-stricken. Go ahead with your work and complete your philosophy. That is your mission in life. If you neglect it for any cause whatsoever, you'll be reduced to a primal state and be compelled to retrace the cycles through which you have passed during thousands of years." Could you imagine getting a message like that from Abraham Lincoln? I was unable to tell the following morning whether I had dreamed this or actually been awake. I've never since found out which, but I do know that the dream, if it were a dream, was so vivid the next day that I resumed my meetings the following night. So then he picked back up the meetings, and then he added new members to his cabinet. Among them, Christ, St. Paul, Galileo, Copernicus, Aristotle, Plato, Socrates, Homer, Voltaire. Ooh, Voltaire is one of my favorite authors of all time, philosophers too. Bruno, Spinoza, Drummond, Kant, love Kant, Schopenhauer, Newton, Confucius, Albert Hubbard, Brand, Ingersoll, Wilson, and William James. I love that he was just having these nightly meetings with these people. Rose, we're nearly done. Chapter 14. He's talking about sixth sense and how your sixth sense is the communication between your human mind and infinite intelligence. Thank you, Trey Day. Somewhere in the cell structure of the brain is located an organ which receives vibrations of thought we call it hunches. How many of you have had hunches before? So far, science has not discovered where this organ of the sixth sense is located, but that's not important. The fact remains that human beings do receive accurate knowledge through sources other than the physical senses. Such knowledge generally is received when the mind is under the influence of extraordinary stimulation. Any emergency, ooh, thank you for the champagne. Oh, thank you for the gifts. 222 as he came in. He came in big. Any emergency which arouses the emotions and causes the heart to beat more rapidly than normal may and generally does bring the sixth sense into action. So they're saying that you can be like feared into releasing your sixth sense. Thank you for the gifts, babe. Okay. On scores of occasions when I faced emergencies, some of them so grave that my life was in danger, I've been miraculously guided past these difficulties through the influence of my invisible counselors. I'm really going to try this invisible counselors thing. I think this is a good idea. The sixth sense is not something that one can take off and put on at will. Ability to use this great power comes slowly. Through application of the other principles outlined in this book. Seldom does any individual come into workable knowledge of the sixth sense before the age of 40. So if you're under 40, you're still developing. More often, the knowledge is not available until one is well past their 50s. And this for the reason that the spiritual forces with which the sixth sense is so closely related does not mature and become usable except through years of meditation, self-examination, and serious thought. So you want to know why I have such a strong sixth sense? A lot of work, right? No matter who you are or what you may have been, your purpose in reading this book, you can profit by it without understanding the principle described in this chapter. It's especially true if your major purpose is accumulating money. The chapter on the sixth sense was included because the book is designed for the purpose of presenting a complete philosophy by which individuals can unerringly guide themselves to attain whatever they ask of life. So they're saying you don't need a sixth sense to create the wealth. You can just do the other things they mention in the book. But we want to tell you pretty much the secret of life. It's through the sixth sense. The starting point of all achievement is desire. The finishing point is knowledge, which leads to understanding of self, others, the laws of nature, recognition, and understanding of happiness. This sort of understanding comes in its fullness only through familiarity with and use of the principle of the sixth sense. Hence, that principle had to be included. So the last few chapters, the last few paragraphs on this, fate versus fear. Here we go. This is the end of chapter 14. Previous chapters have described how to develop faith through autosuggestion, desire, and the subconscious. The next chapter presents detailed instructions for the mastery of fear. Here will be found a full description of the 6 fears, which are the cause of all discouragement, timidity, procrastination, indifference, indecision, and the lack of ambition, self-reliance, initiative, self-control, and enthusiasm. Okay? So we're going to end tomorrow with chapter 15. Thank you so much for coming, YouTube. I hope you enjoyed that reading of chapter 14. And what we're going